brain gain. So you've gone outside, you've learned whatever it is you need to learn, and you've come back to Ghana to give back to us whatever you have. So how was life like as a child? What did you do for fun? Did you want to be in public service?
Interesting. And let me say that I say hello to all your viewing audience, and I just want to say that life was interesting growing up. Now I look back and I think it was fun growing up on the cocoa farm and going to the farm to weed around the cocoa to make
Where exactly did you grow up?
I grew up between Ashanti and Western region.
Wow.
My father was a cocoa farmer.
Okay.
So that took him to the Western region, specifically a village called Antobam in the Manso, Amenfi traditional area. So that is where I grew up. And then formative had to go back to school. At the time of school going age, there were no quality schools there.
Wow.
So my parents had to make the decision as to how I get educated. And that meant my mom had to take us back to Jachi in the Ashanti region so that we can get access to quality education. So vacation, we'll go back to Wasa and continue our job as children of cocoa farmers.
Did you like school as a kid?
Of course. I loved it.
What did you like about it?
All I like about school was my father made me see that education was everything. And he wanted me to become who he couldn't become.
Wow.
And so he made me know that I would do well. And as somebody who didn't go to school, he made a habit of visiting school.
Wow.
He came to the school and he was visiting my teachers more frequently, that they decided to, instead of just talking to the teacher, and he offered himself as like an ambassador of education. So he was the one who advised the kids and tell them, you need to work hard. You need to get what I didn't get.
Were you embarrassed as a kid at the time?
No,
like, Dad, what are you doing in my school?
No. No, it was kind of interesting. So you are in primary 2 and you hear him in primary 1, and he's the type with a very loud voice, and he talks. So you hear him in primary 2 and he'll go to primary 3, he'll cover the whole school. Then it became part of his routine to talk to all students in all the schools in my town at that time. And a very interesting experience. Remember one time he came to my class and told them that, because I was one of the best students there, and he said, whoever does better than my son, I'm going to give you a reward during Christmas. It's a village.
Did anyone do better than you?
Lo and behold, one person beat me. So Christmas time, he comes and say, Yaw, let's go to your friend's house so that I can give him his reward for beating you.
How did you feel?
I felt bad. So I followed him to my friend's house, and those, they will have biscuits, in a tin can. So he took me there and gave him the award in front of me.
Your biscuit.
Yeah, I went to my friend. That friend of mine is now a lawyer.
Wow.
Yeah, so my father was that type. He made me aware that you should get what I didn't get, and do everything possible to get what I didn't get. And therefore, when I look back, that was the greatest investment he made in me. He made me believe in myself. I remember one time he came home and said, oh, your head teacher says you are very smart. And then your head teacher said you go to the last school. Because the head teacher told him university. And he didn't know what a university was.
Wow.
And couldn't pronounce the university right. So instead of corrupting it, he just asked him, what's a university? And the head teacher told him, it's the last school that you can attend.
Wow.
So he came home and said, your head teacher says you are very intelligent, and if you work hard, you go to the last school. So in my mind, the last school. And then I grew up to know the last school was the university. And I remember my last course, the last day of the last course of my PhD. When I finished the course and stepped out, I remember what my dad told me about the last school, and I cried. Wow. I get into the elevator. It was a tear of joy, tears of joy that a kid growing up between Tobam and Jachi somehow get to University of Southern California in America and get to finish a PhD. And it was almost like a prophecy of the father. The dream of the father now became his dream. And the reality set in at that point for me that I had lived my father's dream. Because that was his dream, that he could have done something better for himself. Didn't get the opportunity, preached about it to me, And now it has come to pass. And in fact, I had gone to the last school and the last program possible in any school, which was doing a PhD. So that was what made me cry at that point, that a father's dream can become a reality in the life of a son.
Thank you. Now let's talk about University of Ghana. Why did you decide to do business administration?
Actually, you see, I did learn economy at KNUST. But in the US, there's nothing like learned economy.
Okay.
They call it business administration. When they call business administration with a major in real estate.
So you actually did land economy at KNUST.
By the US translation, that makes it business administration.
So tell us about land economy. Why did you choose land economy?
You see, land economy kind of chose me.
How?
Because I went to Jache Pramso Senior High School. At that time, there was no science. We couldn't do science at the school. And the best course you could do as the brightest case in the school was math, geography, and economics when you go. So we did the add maths at the O level. So when you go to senior high, the sixth form, the only choice you had was, for bright kid from Japan, was math, geography, and economics. So when I went to Kumasi High for sixth form, I actually changed the mathematics and I did management. So I did management.
Why did you change it?
Actually, what happened was, at that time, the regular teacher there was not available, and we had hired somebody, part-time person, to teach us. And when the part-time person came in, that schedule crashed with my economics class schedule. And the only option was looking at dropping one class. And then I became excited about management. And I'm so happy that I did management. Because management at the A level taught me so many things that I've used for the rest of my life, for all this while. Because management, we did law, and we did a whole lot of courses that really makes you think differently and act differently. And I'm grateful I did management. So management, geography, economics. Then, that's why I'm saying land economy chose me. That was the best course I could do. But Legon gave me economics, law, and geography. And at that point, it was money that was going to determine which one I went.
Why money?
Because Legon was free. Tech was free at the time. They even gave us allowance. But it wasn't enough. I had to find additional money in my pocket. And I couldn't get that from home. So I said to myself, if I go to Tech, it's so close to where my sister lives. My sister lives in Amekum. So I said, if I go to Tech, they can bring me food.
Wow.
Which they did. My sister would bring me banku and all those things. But if I had come to Legon, I had been in trouble.
Wow.
So my best choice at the point was doing land economy at Tech. I also got accepted to planning, but kind of land economy. It was very prestigious at the time. There were only 15 students selected out of 400. Wow. Yeah, and I got in, and the rest is history.
So tell us about how you ended up in the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Went to U.S. actually through a friend who knew how to go about doing school admissions and getting in. So I got in and I went to University of Laverne, did a master's degree. But you see...
Did you work before you started school?
Of course.
Or you just
I went in and I worked.
How many years did you work?
I worked for about... Actually, you see, I'm the type that is always kind of in a hurry.
Why? Where are you rushing to?
You see, rushing to a destination. But the interesting thing is, you know, I got that attribute from my uncle, who of course didn't go. I didn't have anyone who went to school. My uncle, at the time that he was about to pass away, and he was sharing his life stories, and he said when he was a young man, he had a lot of money, he didn't make good use of it, and now at the time he was passing away, it was my mom who was taking care of him. And he was not talking to me, but he was sitting there talking about how he could have done things differently at a certain age of his life and how he didn't do it. And even though I didn't get anything support from that angle of mine, but what I got from him was the idea of not squandering any opportunity that comes your way. So I resolved from that day forward, the day I heard him talking about his life as a young man and how he had a lot of money and didn't make good use of it, I resolved that in anything that I'm doing, I'm not going to wait. Whenever I have the opportunity, I'll take advantage of it and do whatever I can within the period that I had the opportunity and not wait to a point where I'll say, oh, had I known. So in my life, in fact, everything that about me is about how can I leverage what I'm doing now to the next level. So when I went to Los Angeles, the first place I visited, and I actually walked to one of them, was University of Southern California.
Wow.
I live a little bit far from there, but there you look at those days. You have to look at Thomas Guide. There's a map. You look at it, and you know. So I look and
was that the 70s, 80s?
No, actually in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
90s.
You're not that old.
No. Early 90s. I finished tech in 1990.
Ah, okay. You're young.
No, I'm so young. So what happened was I located that university and I worked there. I worked there and took the admission documents and reviewed it and studied it. And I said, I'll go to this university.
Wait, at that time, were you a legal resident?
Oh, well, talk about legal. Yeah,
how did you get into the school? What kind of job were you doing?
I was a security guard.
And you visualized that you'd be in the school?
I already had my admission documents in front of me, reviewing how I'll qualify. And then eventually, of course, you go through the thing and you get documents and then you work.
Did you face any cultural shocks? So before you went to the US, what perception did you have of the place? Then when you got there,
interesting thing
did you miss home?
Interestingly, I had no choice. I can't miss home.
You can't go home.
4 kids growing up goes to work at Land Valuation Board for National Service. I didn't do any real job after that, and I go to US, right? And I was being paid $4.50 an hour as a security guard.
Isn't that below the minimum wage?
At that time, it was probably not below.
Okay.
But at that time, $4.50, wore my security clothes, and the first day I was super excited because I did actually look at the $4.50, converted into cedis, and it's a lot of money. No, that's what migrants do when you first go to.
I'm rich. Yeah, I made it.
I'm rich. So once I had a college degree, I was super excited working as a security guard. Wow. Did it for 1.5 years.
You didn't feel like, I have a college degree, I don't belong in this job?
You don't have the choice. As an immigrant, man, that is what trains you. When you come back to Ghana, you respect everyone. I respect everyone that I come in contact with because I've been there. College degree, become a security guard, the kind of things you go through as an immigrant and black, the kind of things that will be said to you. And I began to feel, I said, wow, this is how life is. All of a sudden, I began to feel how it is to be a minority. Yeah. And I began to feel like, wow. So in Ghana, this is how some minorities feel. Because I was beginning to feel like the idea that you are black and the idea that you are an African, and you look at yourself and you have a college degree and you are wearing security clothes, it diminishes you. That if you are not careful and you are not determined, you begin to feel like, wow, why did I come here? But in my mind, I had gone there for a reason. And the reason was to get education. And I didn't care what I was going through at the time.
And we are proud of you for it.
I'm so proud to be on your show.
Now, viewers, again, if you have any questions for the doc, use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832. Now, we're going to skip some steps to your experience at the Manual Arts High School.
Manual Arts High School.
How did you survive a public high school in the US?
America.
First of all, for 10 years.
Boy,
because those kids are something else.
Before I got to that public school, though, I taught as a substitute teacher.
Oh, that's even worse. Substitute teachers get it worse.
Boy, it's terrible. You know
they go through worse than the actual teachers.
But you see, I was getting $4.50
as a security.
And then, God. And then one day, a woman comes there to pick up a luggage at the security post where I was. And I had to check and make sure the right thing. And then the guys will put it in her car. And then one of the guys working there and say, this is my principal.
Aww.
And I said, oh, I'll have to go and say hello to her. So I went to the woman and say, Madam, hello, I have a college degree.
That's really?
Yeah, can you help me teach or something? And
I need to move out of this security game.
He said, come to my school.
Wow.
So I went to her school. But I went to her school. And the interesting thing was, she showed me all the steps. She said, oh, you have a college degree. Go and take the CBEST.
Yeah.
And CBEST was the basic exam that you can take to become a teacher. So I took the CBEST and I almost got 100% on the mathematics portion.
Wow.
And math is something that people are scared of.
Yeah.
So,
especially in the US.
So holding my results, everywhere I went to a private school and they said, oh, come and teach here. And you can help the students. Yeah. Even though we don't have a teaching position here, you can be a coach. Yeah. So I became a volleyball coach for the girls and we won. Yeah, I became a coach.
How did you end up with math teachers and volleyball coach?
Yeah, because And they call me Coach Yaw, and they couldn't say my last name, so my first name became. Even go to Los Angeles, and everybody call me Dr. Yaw.
The other one is too difficult to pronounce.
So I became a volleyball coach for them and PE teacher, and at the same time custodian. I would clean after them after they finished eating. And then after that, I went to see this woman again, and she said, "Okay, go to the school this way. They will hire you as a substitute teacher." So I became a substitute teacher for about 1.5 years, and it was tough.
Yeah, because you can't discipline the kids.
Oh no, discipline who? You have to discipline yourself. You discipline yourself, not the child.
Why?
Yeah. So I walk in there. First class that I walk in, a kid. First of all, I walk in and say good morning, and everybody was quiet. Nobody cared about me. And I said, wow, this is interesting. And then the next time they send me out to another school, a kid says, I want to smoke. The teacher allows me to smoke. Can I smoke? Wanting to get me in trouble. I said, of course you can smoke here. So that's right. And then I end up getting a long-term assignment in one school. Before I went to Manual Arts, at Audubon Middle School, mostly black kids. Who don't know anything about Africa.
African Americans.
Yes. Yeah. And they will make fun of you because you come from Africa. Aww. Yeah.
How did you handle it?
You see, money. I was getting paid $4.50. And then I'm in a school where I'm getting paid $22 an hour.
But the kids are terrible.
But am I going to quit? Are you serious? No. Everywhere in the world. But if some of them are not behaving, we want to find out. Yeah. Life was tough in that classroom. I was there for about 2 months. I remember one time when they won't be quiet, right? If you want to talk, they'll say, just write it on the board and we'll do it. So that day, I had written something on the board. Somehow the kids were so quiet that day.
Wow.
So I was beginning to be suspicious. And every morning I knelt down in that classroom and prayed.
You're kidding?
Of course, because that was the
Are you allowed to do that? Before
the kids came. Because that was the closest to the military service and to the battlefield I've ever been. So every morning I'll pray. And then this morning they were so quiet. And I was saying to myself, God, what is going on? These children are too respectful today. And some of them asked me, can you come and explain this to me? Can you come and explain this to me? So I walked to one who had called me and I explained everything. And they were so quiet, so nice. I was going back to sit and I had a stool. It was a science lab. A wooden stool. I looked back and somebody had planted a long nail on it and had glued it to the tape, to a chair. All that they wanted was me to sit on it, hurt myself, and they would laugh.
Oh my God.
They would laugh. So I went there and I saw it and I moved it and they all started laughing.
Wow.
That is when I saw this is dangerous. But I still could not quit it and going where?
But you can go to a different school.
No, you didn't have a choice. So good thing is, after 2 months.
So what did you have like a pep talk with them that don't ever do this again?
Oh boy, who will listen to you?
But
that was not the place for pep talk. It was a time when you say to yourself, I'm going to quit at all costs. So fortunately, I found Manual Arts High School.
Okay.
And that time, the interesting thing at Manual Arts is that it kind of changed the course of my life. I went there as a mathematics teacher. And then the reason why they hired me was that all schools in California at the time was changing from 3 years of high school to 4 years. But they didn't have buildings.
Wow.
So what they had to do was to use innovative and creative way called year-round. What we are implementing as double track. So because of the double track, they were hiring more teachers, and I got hired.
So the year-round.
Yes, it's called year-round. And here we call it double track.
Wow.
So that I got my first job as a teacher because the high school had become 4 years instead of 3. So they only had space for 3 years of high school, and all of a sudden high school had become 4 years.
And how did they explain it to you at the time for you to understand it?
I just had a job and they said, this is the track you are on. When your kids go on vacation, you go on vacation with them. When they come back, you come with them. So it's a simple thing. And I was happy because of the year run, I had a job. Wow. So I got my job as a teacher. And then after the 4 months, like we do here, like green track and gold track going for 4 months, after the 4 months, I was supposed to have a vacation. Then somehow, the counselor calls me and says, you're going to move on to this other track.
Wow.
African, quiet at the time, won't talk.
Why didn't you talk?
If I talk, I won't be sitting with you here. So what happened to me was I was quiet, I just moved on to the other track. I started teaching, and then some teachers came, and the teacher union came and said, "Hey, you have to be paid extra. That guy can do that to you."
Wait, so you were not being paid extra?
Extra. I was not. I was just happy to work. I'll get him a regular pay. So they came here and said, "You have to be paid extra. They can't do that to you. It's against the labor laws of America." And then the union said I should file grievance against the headmaster of the school for doing that to me. And I thought about it, and I said, if I file grievance against him, he gets in trouble, I may go. I may lose my job. So I said, I'm not stupid. I didn't come from Africa to here to talk about law. So I went into the headmaster's office, principal, and said, "Mr. Principal, I've heard that you should pay me extra." And then he said, "I'm so sorry. Aww. We should have told you. But can you wait till the end of June?" Because he called the school district, right? And the school district said, "No, you should have told them before you did. We don't have money for you." Wow. So he said, "Could you wait till the end of June and I'll pay you the extra money?" And I said, "Of course." But extra money anyway. The guy couldn't believe it. Wow. And he was an African American. At that time, he was the only African American male principal in the whole LA Unified School District. So he looked at me and said, "I'll do something for you because of what you've done for me." And he couldn't believe it.
Because you could have gotten him into a lot of trouble.
So he looked at me and said, "I'll do something for you." Lo and behold, the guy did.
What did he do?
A year after that, he selects me to go and teach in the Neighborhood Academic Initiative at the University of Southern California. That was a unique program. Let's say Legon going to Nima or any other Mamobi or any place, and then or Medina, and bringing the kids from there to take their classes on Legon campus,
so they can see
the acculturation in the mind, the possibilities.
Wow.
So this inner city kids were being sent to University of Southern California to study there in their classrooms in the morning, and he selected me to teach in the program. And the benefit was that on Thursdays and Tuesdays, I only taught up till 9:30. And the rest of the day I was free. Wow. So I used the opportunity to enroll in the PhD program at the university to get my PhD.
What about just enjoying life and finding yourself?
Finding myself in America meant I need to get some money first. And to get money first means I need to go to school. What did you need
all that money for, Doc?
So you see, from there, then one day he calls me and says, "Hey, there's another opportunity. They've called me from the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C. They are looking for just one teacher in the whole country to serve on this panel that will travel around the country, and you come up with a model that will change high school education in America." And I said, "Thank you, Jesus." So I was so happy. He selected me. I became a member for 2 years. Traveling around the country. We came up with a model called the New Designs for Learning. And then I finished that, and I told the head of the program, I said, "Can I use all these ideas to start a school?" And that time the government was saying that the public schools were not doing well, and they wanted partners, and they wanted teachers and parents to form a new school, and they would pay for every student to come to you. And as an African, I said to myself, "Wow, this is interesting. Can I do it?" And I said, "Okay, I'll go in." Wrote a grant. They gave me $500,000 to begin. And then the head of the New Designs program wrote a letter of recommendation for me. They gave me the money. And I couldn't believe it. Remember, I picked up the check, and then I put it in the passenger seat of my car, and I made sure the window was closed
next to me.
I thought it would just fly away. Never seen anything like that before.
How did you feel? Did you remember your dad?
Of course. Last school. Going to the last school had paid off. And my dad actually, I invited him to come there. He came there twice before he passed away. Wow. Came to see my school.
How did he feel?
Happy. He came to the school. He couldn't believe it. When we started the school, it was growing. I was started with 100 students. So many parents wanted to come to my school. And the reason they gave was because I was an African.
Wow.
They said, "We hear that Africans are serious about education. And therefore, we want our children in your school." And interesting, I'll always tell them my life story. And when they hear my life story, they want to do more. And they have Latino kids. Later on, we have some white kids. We have black kids. So for the blacks, I was like them. I said, "You have to do well because I'm like you. And I've started schools in America. You can do well." And the Latino, I tell them, I will
ask you more about that in your school, because I was looking at the website and I surprisingly saw a lot of black teachers, which I didn't have as a high schooler in the U.S. But we do have a surprise for you. You have someone on the line who wants to talk to you.
Someone on the
line. Good morning. Okay, I think we lost him there, but he'll come back.
Surprise!
Yes, a small surprise for you. He'll come back. So tell us about how being on this board informed your decision to start a school. Because most people would have been like, oh, I'm just a teacher. I'm just going to do this teaching thing. I don't think I have it in me to start a school and run a school, because then you need a completely different skill set to make it successful.
Yeah. You see, the interesting thing is, one day I had an epiphany, lining up in front of the Federal Immigration Building in Los Angeles. Those days, you didn't make an appointment to go to immigration. You had to line up.
Wow.
So you had to go early in the morning. So I remember one time,
Doc,
I went
through
there.
things in life,
Oh yeah. I went there very early. We woke up around 3. My wife and I went there, lined up, and in the morning around about 6, when they were about to open, I looked behind me. It was a long line, and it made me so happy. I said to myself, "Wow, it's great to come on time, and I'm here early." Then I heard something almost like a voice talking to me. Why are you happy about those behind you? Do they have an impact on your ability to enter the office? Then began to inform my whole life.
Wow.
That you don't have to be complacent because others are behind you. Yeah. You see, so as immigrants, one of the issues that I've seen in America is that we have a lot of talent, we have a lot of education, but invariably, we don't look at moving up and competing with Americans. We just say to ourselves, I come from a village, I come from Ghana. When I return to Ghana, well, I'm like at the toast of the village, because where I come from, I'm seen as a burger, right? Okay, I'm so respected.
We'll get back to that. Hi, are you on the line? Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So we have Doc here. He's listening. Do you have anything you want to tell him? Doc, do you know who's on the line?
No.
Okay, so we won't tell you. We'll make you guess.
I have no idea. I know too many.
So what can you tell us about him, aside the fact that he's a workaholic who likes to stack up his money? I'll ask you what you're using all that money for, by the way.
What is that?
Okay. Yes, I think I want to say thank you very much to Dr. Yaw.
Oh, Fred.
It's been exciting working with you, knowing you from the US. We came down, and luckily, he was my first report. I bet you will meet every Sunday, every single evening when I close from work. I have to go to his office and we talk about it. If the minister I just walk straight into his office, I can go to his refrigerator and take what I want. And it's exciting working with him. He leaves me the work and advise you as appropriately as possible. I'll say thank you to him. One minister that will want the best for his constituency, he looks out for his constituency. I think it's an exciting. It's been good knowing him, and I want to continue to build a strong relationship. I'm lucky to have him. Now he's been a yardstick for every immediate work that I get. Together with Dr. Yaw and Napo, I've been grounded in a serving the Ghanaian system. And Doc, I know you know who he's talking.
Now I know. Your picture is up.
Yes, we put your picture up, so now you know who is talking.
You are betrayed.
I know.
Thank you
so much, Fred. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You did your background search very well.
A little bit. So let's talk about now where you are, the policymaker. How have you taken all these experiences to influence what you're doing now? Was it difficult to decide to come back home? What challenges did you face when you came back? What preconceived notions did you have? Because I have people who tell me that when they were coming back home, they thought they were going to be Superman. And then when you get here and you're like, all right, take a humble pie and figure it out.
Interestingly, what happened was as the schools grew, we had 2 schools and campuses, and very interesting experience of about close to 200 workers.
Wow. How did you end up with so many teachers of color? Because I thought that was very profound.
I recruited a few of them from Ghana.
Was it deliberate? Because I saw a lot of Ghanaians there.
Yes. It was deliberate because, you see, invariably, black kids are taught by white teachers who may not be able to relate to them and relate their life experiences, and as a result, they don't do well. In schools where, that is why it is interesting that during the segregation era, when blacks were being taught in black schools, students did well and did even better than the time when desegregation happened. So in my school, what I wanted to do was the student population should also reflect in the teacher population. So there were quite a few black teachers and African and Ghanaian teachers, and then we have whites and Latinos and everybody in that mix. But the interesting thing was to see myself leading a school and leading with all this number of teachers. And then one day, the current president of the Republic, when he was running for president, the second time visited the school. And they brought him there, they had a luncheon there for him, and then they introduced me, and he called me and said, tell me, how you were able to do this? How can a Ghanaian come to America and build schools for Americans? How were you able to do this? And I said, oh, now I'll talk to you later. I said, no. Say it in front of everyone. Let everybody know what you did. And then I explained to him how the whole thing works, how charter schools work, and how I got into that space. And then his first question was, not question. He first said, I commend you. You've done such a fantastic job as a Ghanaian in America. Then the first question was, would you consider coming back to Ghana to help me change the education system? And I said to myself, And then I said, yes, I will consider. Because at least he said, will you consider? So I'll consider. Informed?
Because for the first time, you're not thinking about money anymore. Now you've made it. So it's not money.
The American dream, I can say, at that point, I had made the American dream. I mean, based on what I was being paid for and the opportunity.
So what made you say yes?
I didn't say yes instantly. I said, I'll consider it. Then after that, I had to go and see a mentor of mine. So if you're a youth hearing us, and I want to speak to you, that mentors are important. This was a mentor of mine, former congressman. I went to meet with him. We had lunch in Watts, in very challenging urban environment. So I went there and said, hey, over lunch, I said, can I talk to you about this? That's why I asked that we come to lunch. And I said, somebody running for president in Ghana has told me that he will want to work with me in Ghana. And I'm also, at that point though, I was also contemplating naturalizing and running for U.S. Congress.
So this whole time you were not a U.S. citizen?
No, never been.
Why?
No, never been, because you can do anything with green card. Why worry about citizenship? Okay. So Ghana was still in my heart.
Aww.
And I said, I'll consider, but I was also looking at running for Congress. Yeah. I wanted to make history, come back to Ghana and say, I'm a U.S. congressman.
Oh, God.
The first.
And what would that do for you?
Hey, history.
Bugger fans. Anyway, what impact?
So the guy told me that we appreciate the work you've done here, because our school is one of the best in California. Yeah. So he said, we appreciate the work you've done here, but I'll tell you one thing. And he, interestingly, was from Trinidad.
Wow.
And he came to U.S. at an age just like mine. He became a congressman, lieutenant governor of California. So I had done the politics and had done it very well. So he said, I'll tell you one thing. America can do without you. Yeah, but maybe your country cannot do without you.
Wow.
So I would advise you to go back home.
What legacy do you hope to leave behind, and what impact do you think you've had at the education ministry so far?
In terms of legacy, I'll tell you, it's in posterity will actually judge me and give me that
like
legacy.
A modest man. But what impact do you think you've had?
I went with a friend to UK and with Westminster and went to their parliament. And everywhere I turned, there were statues on the streets, in the chamber, everywhere there were statues, right? So I turned towards my colleague, who is now the Deputy Director General of Ghana Education, Dr. Tano. I said, Dr. Tano, I'd rather be an African. And he said, why should you rather be an African? I said, that is where the statues are going to be built. So one day I'll have a statue in my honor. Yeah. But here, all the statues are already done. Yeah. So if I had stayed in America, I would just see him as an African immigrant who did some good things in South LA. But in Ghana, if we do a good job and really do not accept mediocrity in the education system, begin to transform it and give opportunity to children, even the children whose classes I'm teaching, I've gone to schools, I've taught classes, those children that I sat with at the Ministry of Education last week in our conference room and spoke with them. If one of them By virtue of the fact that I was close to him, the Independence Avenue School, I've doctored a class there. By virtue of the fact that I was close to him or her, becomes a medical doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, become a professional that he wouldn't have become, that would be a good and befitting legacy for me.
Thank you so much. Honorable Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum, Deputy Minister of Education in charge of general education. It's been such an honor to have you here. I wish we could continue because I was just starting. Yes, it's over. Back. Please do. You will. Okay, you come back. Thank you.
The only thing is, I want your audience to know that there's no breakfast here. And it's a breakfast show.
We'll have breakfast next time. Thank you.
Especially being interviewed by somebody who knows about America.
Oh, gosh.
It's great. It's great. That's why we ask all the right questions.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.